Call the meeting to order. We'll stand and say the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead and do a roll call, Nancy.
Allen. Here. Valley.
Here.
Bivens.
Here.
Book. Considine.
Here.
Barster.
Here.
Hudson.
Present.
Humphrey.
Here.
Kitson.
Present.
Copine.
Here.
McLean. Minimi.
Here.
Naylor. Present. Nicholson.
Here.
Norberg.
Here.
Phelan.
Here.
Sheline.
Here.
Shippert.
Present.
Scrogstad.
Here.
White. Williams.
Here.
Wilson. Zeman.
Here.
And Olson.
Here. Thank you. Under announcements, please mute or turn your cell phones off. And we'll go to the employee spotlight. Would Greg Gates and Judge Klein come up here, and I'll let you guys give your awards.
Good evening, everyone. I would ask that Chris Gullett come forward. I have nominated Chris Gullett for the Employee Spotlight Program, as he is always professional, efficient in completing tasks assigned, working well with fellow county employees, as well as external stakeholders, and shows a passion for completing his job every day. Each of the core values of Lee County are exemplified in Chris's work daily. He has respect for his fellow employees and those vendor organizations that he works with, collaborates in finding solutions to problems at hand, provides a world-class product in wanting to make Lee County's building shine and exemplify a professional image overall. I believe it goes without saying that he truly goes the extra mile in getting the job finished and done correctly the first time. He is genuinely concerned about the grounds and maintaining the building of Lee County in a professional manner. Specifically here at Lee Ogle Transportation at the Reagan Transit Center, Chris has partnered with Derek, our mechanic, in completing snow removal and maintaining the grounds as needed. When we were completing a removal of old carpet, Chris and other maintenance staff worked diligently in getting the old carpet out, not to mention moving office furniture out of the rooms that were impacted by the carpet replacement. Chris does his work with a smile and a great sense of humor. I don't hear him complain, but instead is willing to jump in and do whatever it takes to complete the task at hand. He truly is a great employee and a great asset for Lee County. He is a worthy candidate for this honor and someone who should be recognized with the quarterly honor. Chris, congratulations on being named Employee Spotlight.
Good evening. I guess I get to recognize or help recognize the better looking, smarter, more intelligent Gullett. Is that, and that would be Lee Gullett, Chris's wife. You can come up. I cannot take credit for this nomination. That was Judge Ackert. She had to travel for a circuit judge meeting. So she asked me to appear and present this for her. I'll read first Judge Ackert's words. She said, "I'm not sure I've ever met a harder worker than Lee. In her 17 plus years of having an office and courtroom in the court's building, she had never seen it cleaner. Not only is Lee a diligent employee, she's always professional, kind, immediately responsive to requests, an example to all of what an ideal employee should be. At a time when most county employees were working less due to COVID-19 shutdowns, Lee's workload increased and she never complained. Although I didn't think it was possible, Lee worked even harder. All the judges and staff felt safer during the pandemic because we knew Lee and her staff did an excellent job cleaning and sanitizing all areas of our building. Lee is one of those behind the scenes workers that deserves recognition. I can tell you that having lawyers in the area that travel to all of our neighboring counties, I've had multiple ones comment that our courthouse is by far the cleanest courthouse in the area. It's always an inspiration to see somebody who's truly the best at what they do. I've had occasion where I've had to be at the courthouse for early morning hours. And I'll tell you, even when no one was in the building, you see that same pace from Lee and work ethic. And she's equally as friendly. She will stop briefly, but it's a matter of a second, and she just keeps working while she's being friendly and talking to you and moves on with her work. Like I said, it's really an inspiration because you can tell she has that, hopefully not a dying quality, but of taking pride in what you do. And that's just a subtle balance of humility and confidence. And just to see the consistency, like I said, it's been very few times in my life where I've got to observe somebody who is the best at what they do. And certainly her work ethic is contagious because her teammates, Helen and Lisa, I always see them doing the same with the same positive attitude. So very well deserving. We certainly need all the Lee Gullets that we can have. And so congratulations and thank you.
Thank you. Both well-deserving employees. We'll move down to C. We got recognition of former Chief Assessment Officer Wendy Ryerson. She received an award for outstanding achievement in property assessment on a small jurisdiction from the IPAI. Jennifer Boyd's here, I think, with something prepared with pictures from the banquet.
For those of you that didn't notice, she's over here waving her finger at me. That's why I got up.
Wendy doesn't really like attention, so I have to kind of force her into it. But recently, Wendy and I attended the annual Illinois Property Assessment Institute State Conference, formerly referred to as the Spring Conference, where Wendy was recognized with the 2022 Award for Outstanding Achievement in Property Assessment, Small Jurisdiction. This award is designated to a certified Illinois assessing officer who oversees a township, multi-township jurisdiction of fewer than 25,000 residents or a county or jurisdiction of fewer than 50,000 residents. Attending the conference to teach unexpectedly for Wendy turned into a night of honoring her. In addition to the Outstanding Achievement in Property Assessment Award, Wendy was recognized for her long-standing years of service and also recognized along with all of the other past Marshall Thoreau Award winners, taking the stage a total of 3 times during the banquet. She thought she was there to teach a couple of breakout sessions. Wendy was surprised by the Outstanding Achievement Award, and she also was surprised by some guests there to celebrate her achievements, including Vice Chairman of the board, John Nicholson, and his wife, Diane, County Board Member, Marilyn Schipper, and former member, Judy Truckenbrown, Zoning Officer, Dee Duffy, and former Zoning Officer, Chris Henkel. So we had a nice county turnout for support for Wendy. Wendy received about a dozen letters in support of her nomination for this award. Words and phrases used in those letters to describe Wendy included integrity, humility, honesty, respect, calming influence during turbulent times, standard of excellence that public servants should aspire to, encouraging, strong leadership, great influencer. These sentiments were repeated in all of the letters in many different ways, but the underlying respect and admiration was there in each. The criteria candidates were judged on included assessment accuracy, innovation, collaboration, and ethics. The presenter of the award was able to name numerous specific examples in each category that qualified Wendy for this award, bringing sales ratios into uniformity in the first year of her assessment office, being the Chief County Assessment Officer, from 45.58% coefficient of dispersion down to 25.72% in her final full year. The target is 30% or lower. Another example, dividing the county into 4 assessment districts to balance the workload of the statutorily required general reassessment year. Spread out the cost of the general reassessment year, spread out the cost of the publication, and make for a more predictable budget. Another example, pioneering valuation models for wind energy that were eventually codified into state law, which then served as the basis for solar energy valuation a decade later. That's just a few examples of the accomplishments that Wendy has made. But I feel Wendy's strongest attributes may be in the final 2 categories, collaboration and ethics. I believe we all have seen Wendy shine in these 2 areas. Wendy is selfless, caring, and giving of her time and efforts. She has mentored many within the county, myself included, as well as across the assessment field. She has been involved in countless projects and committees in the assessment world. Just a few examples of those would be County Assessment Officers Association President, Illinois Property Assessment Institute instructor, a member of the Board of Directors, and served on IPAI Education Committee. Wendy does not do all that she does for recognition. She is truly passionate about her profession, doing the right thing, helping and mentoring others. She is astounding at helping all parties collaborate and come to a common good. She holds herself to high ethical standards that reflect on the county. In the assessment office, she would strive every day to make the proper decisions in accordance with the Illinois Property Tax Code and work towards fair and equitable resolutions to each assessment. This collaborative and ethical nature was recognized by the Lee County Board when they appointed Wendy to be the Lee County Administrator. Wendy, you are most definitely deserving of the Outstanding Achievement in Property Assessment Award. And I want to thank you for everything you have done and continue to do for me, the assessment profession, and Lee County.
Thank you, Jennifer. So unlike Chris and Lee, I am going to take a minute to say thank you. I noticed that you 2 didn't want to say anything. Chris and Lee. Chris is still saying no. Seriously, we got a lot on the agenda, so I'm going to make this very brief. Thank you. A big shout out to Jennifer for taking the time to do this tonight. A big shout out to the chairman for allowing the time on the agenda tonight when we do have a busy meeting. I appreciate it. I sincerely appreciate those that took and made the effort to go down to Bloomington and completely surprise me. I appreciate the friends and family that happen to be in the back of the room tonight to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Moving on, we'll go to the approval of the board minutes of the March 24th regular county board meeting. Is there any corrections? If no corrections, we'll let them stand as read. Move down to 6, zoning and planning. Just a reminder, we get the monthly reports from zoning and planning, reports and minutes. Just a reminder that the monthly zoning report along with the ZBA and the planning minutes are included in the packet on your onboard, so you can read them at your leisure. We'll go down to B, petitions going to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have petition 22-P-1592, petitioner Mike Anderson, parcel number 02-15-36-200-016, along with petition 22-P-1593. Petitioner is Lee County Zoning Office, parcel numbers 19-22-05-400-011. And the third petition is 22-P-1594. The petitioner is also Lee County Zoning Office, parcel numbers 19-22-08-200-010. First of all, I entertain a motion to do all 3 of them at one time. Ms. Shippert, Mr. Nicholson seconds it. I got a first, I got a second. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now I need a motion to do them all three together. Mr. Considine moves. Ms. Naylor seconds. We got a first and second. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. In favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Petitions going to the planning commission is none. Petitions coming from the zoning board of appeals. We're going to do these separately. We'll start out with petition 21-P-1585, petitioner Jared M. Zellhofer, parcel number 13-21-01-101-007. Mr. Valley moves.
Yeah, make a motion to approve petition 21P-1585 for a special use for a planned unit development with the recommendation conditions from the Lee County Zoning Board of Appeals.
Do I have a second to that motion? Marilyn seconds it. Ms. Shippert seconds it. Any discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I abstain.
Okay, got one abstention. We'll note it. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go down to petition 21-P-1586. Petitioner is N Venergy, Hydrogen LLC, parcel numbers 15-7-29-300-008. Mr. Valley again.
Yes, I move to approve petition 21P-1586 for a special use to construct and operate a solar energy system with the recommended waivers and conditions from the Lee County Zoning Board of Appeals.
Do I have a second to that motion? Mr. Kitson seconds it. Any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Petitions coming from the planning commission is none. So we'll go to administrator monthly update and board member comments. Wendy?
I don't have anything other than what's on the agenda already. Thank you.
Wow. Any board member comments? That's two in a row. All right. Public visitor comments. We have nothing on the agenda. Anybody? No. I didn't know if Wendy's asking Shelley right now if she wants to share some with us. Sorry, Shelley, I should have got hold of you a little, like 2 seconds before we needed you.
Entertain the opportunity to speak to the board. For those of you that aren't aware, the state fiscal year 2023 budget was signed earlier this week and includes a $5 million transfer from the statewide 911 fund to the newly created 988 fund. This surcharge diversion is a critical misuse of 911 funding. And in fact, earlier, the Federal Communications Commission just last year published a report addressing the US congressional concern over misuse of 911 surcharge. Various states throughout the United States have been ineligible for federal funding due to the sweeping of 911 funds. Ironically, in this sweep of the funds that occurred earlier this week, Illinois' own state 911 administrator is on the strike force for the FCC and makes it clear that the legislators did not consult her office when contemplating such a bold move to sweep 911 funding. I want to be clear in saying that 988 is a good cause and I support it wholeheartedly. For those of you that don't know, 988 is mental health bill that's we're trying to work in conjunction with CESA and other agencies to create a 24/7 number for those experiencing mental health crises. 988 is separate than 911. By further reducing the 911 system share of surcharges, the Illinois legislator is making operational funding gaps even wider than they already are. The gap must be paid by our local units of government who have limited taxing abilities or are already working under their own existing budget constraints. Illinois has a lot of work to do to make further that our 911 centers are properly funded to keep our first responders and citizens as safe as possible. Know that I'm bold in saying this, but taking such reckless action to undermine the funding of 911 in Illinois should be a memory of the past, not a reality of the future. The last time this occurred was in 2015, which made Illinois 911 ineligible for federal funding. We just now, over the past, I think, 3 years, have been eligible, and with Next Generation 911 coming, hitting us right in the face right now, this could potentially make us ineligible for federal funding at the federal level. How it impacts the current federal funding that we've received is yet to be determined. I'm just asking that you join myself and other concerned Illinoisans to persuade the governor to find the $5 million in funding elsewhere for this program. If we support 988 with 911 funding, we're going to have a gap. We can't support 988 wholly. So there's going to be a gap both places. The surcharge diversion, there's several reasons and several downfalls that this could potentially impact us. And just to name a few, 911 centers around Illinois depend on the surcharge money in order to operate. Any unforeseen or unbudgeted decrease in that revenue could have serious repercussions. Sweeping of the funds once again makes Illinois ineligible for federal grants at a time where Next Generation 911 initiatives are ramping up. And lastly, the Federal Communications Commission has detailed what expenses are acceptable for 911. Expenses from 988 would not qualify according to SEC standards. So I'm asking you to support us, 911 systems, first responders, public safety agencies, in talking to our legislators, sending the message to our legislators that this is inappropriate and to withhold the transfer. What we're hoping for, and this is from the director of the state police and his colonel, let me find that page. The best result would be to delay the fund transfer in the new fiscal year and address the fund transfer in the fall veto session. The fund transfer is not scheduled to occur until after July 1, 2022. So therefore, our systems should not expect to see any changes in their current monthly distributions beyond the normal monthly fluctuations. But thereafter, it could negatively impact all of us. So I'm asking for your support. I've sent a letter to the chairman that I've sent out as the Illinois NENA president, from the Illinois APCO president, and then to our senator and to our representative as far as a local agency for the Lee County ETSB. So just want to make you aware this happened. It's inappropriate. Quite frankly, these are my own words. It's a slap in the face to public safety. I'm asking for your support.
Shelley, any questions for her, by the way? Is there something, can we do a formal resolution as a board and then send to our representatives and senator, or is it too late? We'd have to wait till next month. It's not on our agenda tonight.
Wait till next month, but I think that would help. Any voices, any letters? I know Sheriff Simonton, Chief Powell, all public safety first responders that I have communications with in the area. I've asked for their support and their help, and this county board would be great. So yes, I would ask that if you could do that. Like I said, the transfer isn't expected to take place until after July 1. So hopefully the more voices that are heard and the louder message we send, maybe they can stop it.
Sure, we'll do that, and we'll run it through committee, and we'll prepare one and get it signed and sent off, voted on next month. Thank you. Thank you for the short notice. We'll move on to reports of committee, administrative services, Mr. Norberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I want to highlight is the GIS did post the position, received candidates, and are in the process of reviewing them to get somebody hired, backfilled for the GIS department. Other than that, the minutes are in the packet. We had a very brief meeting, working through a lot of department head reports more than anything. So that concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Norberg? Thanks, Chris. Move to Blackhawk Hills Regional Council, Mr. Nicholson.
Yeah, the meeting had been delayed, but finally on March 28th, we had our meeting. I attended by Zoom. And it is a committee-oriented, director-oriented board. There's reports that I will be glad to share with anybody. Much of the discussion was reference to the land over around Rochelle that we are currently working with as an enterprise zone and as the ARPA committee. So there's a lot of discussion there. Reviewed the conflict of interest statements that everybody has to file. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to share with it.
Any questions for Mr. Nicholson? If none, thanks, John. Go to Claims Committee, Ms. Shepherd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Claims Committee is moving along smoothly. I think yesterday we had, it was either 56 or 58 claims that we went through. I think we've got more transparency now because the claims are at the end of the packet. Not only the ones that the Claims Committee reviews, but the ones that have been passed through by department heads. One thing I might add, though, if there's anybody in any department that is entering the claims and is unsure, come and see what we're doing. Brenda Angleton from Highway came up, not this most previous meeting, but a prior meeting. And she said she learned a lot by seeing our end of the process. So if a department head has somebody in their department that's entering them and is a little bit confused, come see what we do, see the other end of it.
I wish every department would send one person a month or something so everybody understands what we're doing and how we do it.
Brenda said it was very helpful to her. So
Good.
thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Shepherd? If none, thank you, Marilyn. Move on to executive. Everything's in the packet. Any questions? If none, go to finance. Mr.
Thank you,
Sheehan.
Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met last Thursday, very brief meeting. It was right on time. And, but anyway, everything is in your packet. And if you have any questions, a couple of things I'd like to point out, especially pay attention to the Gredco report. We did have a presentation by Jason Anderson, and he detailed a grant opportunity that needs to happen it's a grant proposal. It's a planning thing. In your minutes, it's detailed what it is. That is going to be coming to the ARPA committee at our next meeting, and so that'll be before us probably next month. So if you want to understand that, and it's really an exciting opportunity that we have there. Also, we had extensive discussion in regards to 3 elected officials' salaries. And you have a resolution for 2 of them before you. They'll be handled later on. One of them is not there that we spent the most time talking about. And what happened there, if you didn't hear, but in the state budget that was passed over the last week, they basically took the sheriff's salary out of our hands. They pegged it at 80% of the state's attorney's salary, and with a reimbursement to the county of 2/3. So essentially, it will be a savings for us overall. But again, it's basically now we have another salary that's a state mandate. So good and the bad. We also had reports from the ARPA committee. On your page in my report, you have ARPA allocation guidelines. This was determined recommendation from the ARPA committee on how we move since we've moved the non-allocated dollars into the general revenue fund for the county. So there's a framework here. So please pay attention to how that framework has been allocated. Wendy, do you have anything further in ARPA that you'd like to comment on?
So yeah, as Jim said, there were some general earmarked dollars that came out of the ARPA committee at the last month's meeting. Just to give you a very high level overview, because if you're not on ARPA, you may not know where things stand. So we were totally awarded $6,622,748 to be exact, of which about a little over $1 million has already been allocated or obligated. That leaves us with about a 5.586 balance, and the committee made some general earmark allocations that they want to, number one, reserve the about $1 million for 2023. Reserve about $1 million for 2024. They have set aside, and we are in the process now of implementing a small business program. If anybody has any questions on that, there are applications out on the website, or direct them to myself or Sarah. We also, the committee also allocated about $500,000 to business and economic development, earmarked again. And then the one that's of most interest for tonight's discussion is the county capital projects. So as you've been hearing the last few months, there've been a number of of emergent capital projects that have been coming forward, and the committee felt it was prudent to allocate some, and to be exact, 1.5 million to be essentially expended at the discretion of finance. To be clear, this full board is the spending authority on ARPA funds, so nothing will be expended without it coming before the full board. But to deal with some of the capital projects that you'll find even later on your agenda, the thought by ARPA was that we allocate 1.5 towards that, and again, give finance the discretion to expend that money. The remaining million or so, 1.1 million that will be left, we are going to be tackling a lot of existing requests for ARPA dollars that came in from the community or from internally here at the county at the May meeting. So there's a number of requests out there we need to deal with, and there's also any admin costs will come out of that about 1.1 million that's remaining. I would entertain any questions. Otherwise, I'll let Jim carry on with the finance report.
Any questions for either?
And that concludes my report.
So in your forms for when somebody requests something, you need to drive home that the department heads and board members fill that form out. It'll make your meeting go a lot easier.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for the
what do we call
reminder,
that?
Mr. Chairman. Yes, the new form that Wendy was gracious enough to put together, and I think Paula was a hand in there as well. But it's really critical. One of the things that we've consistently had some issues with, especially in your budget adjustment requests or dollars that are outside on projects that crop up through the year. The Finance Committee really needs to have a good, thorough understanding of what's being asked and the amount. And it's really important for those that are making those requests to make sure that the form's filled out and fully so that it can be properly evaluated.
A source where what fund they want to take it out of, they're requesting it out of, and that should streamline our finance.
Correct.
Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Sheeline? If none, we'll go to Health Department. Katie White's absent. We'll go to 911 Board, Mr. Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition to the report already submitted by Director Dallas in the packet and what she presented tonight, just the highlight of the 911 meeting was that request to change the 911 system provider was denied, and that the service provider will be AT&T via contract with the state. Our next meeting will be Thursday, May 26th at 5:30 at the Lee County ECC building. That's a completion of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hudson? We'll move down to properties, planning and zoning, and Mr. Wilson's not here. Mr. Bailey, would you like to give a report?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, we met last Tuesday, and as per the posted minutes, we're going forward on other things, going forward on repurposing of the old jail. We have demolition blueprints and looking at asbestos abatement and lead abatement. We're not going to use the shooting range anymore. So that's just starting ahead. We've been plagued by problems with old boilers in the new courts building, and it's down. We're looking at bids to get that set up, replaced. And then the old part of the new courts building, which is 42 years old, we have a problem failing there. So they need to be addressed here. This is probably a long-term lack of maintenance. So then we also have an elevator that failed in the new courts building. We're looking at and send it to finance on the cost of this to replace. So we got some major things coming up right away here that were not in the budgets. And we're also set up some maintenance agreements for long-term stuff. In the past, we just never had the money to do anything, and we need to catch up and keep up. So Any questions?
I've got a comment on the maintenance. It is, but at the time, we didn't have the money for the maintenance contract. So, I mean, we were putting out fires. We had $1 million deficit per year. So it's really, the fault lays on nobody. It just happened over time. So any questions for Mr. Bally? Done. Thanks, Dave. Go to Transportation Solid Waste, Mr. Forster.
Yes, we met on Monday. April 11th, Amboy at the Highway Garage. You all have the minutes in front of you. And we no longer go ahead as we didn't last month. Our claims committee now already takes care of the claims, so we no longer need to vote on that. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. We will be meeting on Monday, May 9th at 8 a.m. again at the Highway Department in Amboy. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Forster? Thanks, Doug. I'll back up to Public Safety, Mr. Copine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety met April 13th at 9 a.m. Previous meeting minutes were approved without modification. We reviewed the claims that were submitted, heard from the administrative or department head reports. Quarterly update on the unpaid fines was given by the state's attorney. The update on the dangerous and abandoned buildings is still in works and still continues with, I think, 3 or 4 properties, am I right, that are being processed for right now. And an update on the UTV ordinance up by Mr. Scrogstad. End of the year report was turned in, was handed to me, and I in turn put it on the chairman's desk. So if anybody would like to see the end of the year report for the sheriff's department, it's available in the chairman's office. EMA issues regarding computers. I'm not going to go over a lot of the details on it, but I would say that that's a very important area that most everybody sitting in here should consider taking a look at. I think the request is appropriate and we should at least take a detailed look at it. Under new business, there was a line item explained by the sheriff of the increase on the fuel because of the fuel increase prices. That was covered. And the sheriff's salary has been taken care of. There was no executive session, and that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for Mr. Copine? If none, thanks. Go to Tri-County Opportunities Council, Mr. Williams.
County Opportunities met.
Marvin, could you use Jack's microphone? Yours isn't on.
Tri-County Opportunities met last month. The third Thursday, the last Thursday in the month. We appointed a new lady on the board for the low income. And we gave out some awards. Excuse me. I'm not used to this new system. Please bear with me. Tri-County Opportunities will invest the impact of property throughout our 9 counties. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them if I can.
Any questions for
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Williams?
Chairman.
Thanks, Marvin. Go to tourism, Mr. Bill Palin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lee County Tourism Council met on April 13th. The flyer on your desk recites tourism information and coming attractions in the county for the next few weeks. At the present, we're obtaining information regarding digital marketing and possibilities. Hope to have more details next month. Our share of the hotel February hotel motel tax was $3,599.41. That concludes my report.
Mr. Nicholson.
Yeah, in addition to Bill's report there, on the front page of the monthly reports put out by the Executive Director of Tourism Council, down the lower left corner on the front page is Amert Tolls, the Lincoln Highway. You can see on it that it's been named the best book of the year by Amazon. And it's not really out at the bookstores too much right now, but we are going to make a concerted effort to have that in stock at the Lincoln Building over in Franklin Grove, which is the interpretive center for the Lincoln Highway Association. So if anybody's interested in it, give Carla a few months, but we'll try to order some and have them for distribution. So it's really a nice book. I've looked at it online. It's a great book.
Okay. Thanks for your comment. Any questions for Mr. Palin? Thanks, Bill. We'll go down to United Counties of Council of Illinois, UCCI, Mr. Barster.
Yes, I believe in your packet here on board, you have the minutes from the March 28th. I was traveling that day out of state, so I was unable to attend. But I will be attending this coming Monday. There's a meeting again at the Sagmo Club at 9:30 a.m. in Springfield. So I'll be attending that. The minutes are pending approval when we meet on Monday. So if you have any questions on anything that's in that report, be glad to answer them.
Mr. Nicholson, you attended.
I quite truthfully, I dropped the ball. That was the very next Monday after our board meeting. And I called Connie on Tuesday morning and she filled me in on what happened, but the meeting was that night, that Monday night. One thing you might want to notice just on the light side is the golf outing up at Eagle Ridge is on the 25th, 26th of July. So something to stick in your craw. It's a real nice place and real nice outing for everybody. County board members.
Sure. Any questions for either one? If none, thanks, Doug. We'll move on to old business. I've got nothing on old business. Move to new business. ARPA committee funding recommendations. Revised estimate. The Wendy, I guess this is a revised estimate for approved ARPA request for the sheriff's driveway expansion. I think we approved $400 and something and now it's up to $600. So I need a motion to approve the revised estimate for the ARPA driveway expansion.
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve the $17,775.
The total amount. Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Sheeline seconds it. I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, Jack, you got something? Okay, just waving. Any discussion? If none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go down to additional community service application, Meals on Wheels. Now, this application come in late. This request was submitted within the required time period. I guess it wasn't late, but it was not reviewed due to technology issues. So we need to, I'd entertain a motion to approve the Meals on Wheels community service application. Mr. Norberg, Ms. Allen seconds it. Any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We move to the 2022 ARPA allocation that Wendy talked about earlier for 1.5 million for the county capital projects spent. Just a reminder, the full board is the spending authority for all ARPA funds. Therefore, any expenditures of the 1.5 allocated for capital projects has to be approved by the finance and then moved to the full board. We're just approving that to move forward. I need a motion to approve that allocation. Mr. Sheeline moves. Do I have a second? Ms. Naylor seconds it. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 4, I got a resolution, maintenance under the Illinois Highway Code. The resolution coming from the Highway Department. I need a motion to approve the resolution under the Illinois Highway Code. Ms. Shippert, Mr. Varsha seconds it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we go to the old LEC Center. We got a lead abatement contract for the old LEC shooting range. The quote for the lead abatement is at the old LAC is $3,350 plus $675 per 55-gallon drum of waste that is removed. A motion not to exceed $5,500 was recommended from finance to cover the cost of the abatement. Additional waste removal necessary. I'd entertain a motion to approve the lead abatement contract for the old LEC shooting range from ARPA funds at a cost not to exceed $5,000. Mr. Bailey? Mr. Valen seconds it. Any discussion? Got a first and a second. No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Valen. $5,500. Did I say 5,000?
I think you did say 5,000, Bob, but it's in all the documentation, it's referred to as 5,500. Just
Good.
wanted to be clear about that.
Good catch, Charlie. It's, we go back to who made the motion in a second. Are you all right with that?
Yes.
All right. Sorry, I had my glasses on too. We'll go to the asbestos report from the LLC. LEC, we've got a quote on the onboard is for testing inspection report. The report's in your thing. It's about what elements the LEC may contain asbestos. This is not the cost of the abatement, it's just the inspection report. So I think Sterling Environmental, I think you can find it in there, is doing it. Motion approved Sterling Environmental LLC contract for the asbestos inspection report for a cost not to exceed $985. Mr. Nicholson, you want to make a motion? Mr. Valley seconds it. Any discussion? Yes.
Is that coming out of ARPA? Just to specify.
I'd have to ask our finance chair. I don't have it on my notes.
That's what was requested on the board action request form. Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
All right. Thank you for clarifying. Any more discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Resolution authorizing an application for a capital assistance grant lots. This resolution is part of a packet of forms and information that IDOT is requesting from the grantees who are requesting vehicles for public transportation. I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the application for capital assistance grant. Mr. Kitson, Ms. Allen seconds it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So number 8, we got an ordinance, animal control. It's been held over. We're going to hold it over till May. Attached is it's on the onboard. It's an overview of proposed changes to the Lee County Animal Control ordinances. These proposed changes have been reviewed by the state's attorney's office and been through committee. Is there a motion to lay over the ordinance for animal control until the May County Board meeting? Mr. Copine, Mr. Farquhar seconds it. Any discussion on the ordinance? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One nay. Motion carried. We'll go to number 9, EMA computer replacement. Mr. Lally reported that his original request was to replace 20 computers, laptops. In the EMA EOC that were running Windows 7, this need was not addressed during the budget hearings because he was not aware that Windows 7 was not allowed on the county network. As a compromise, Kevin is asking for $10,000 to replace the laptops that were most crucial to the office and budget the remaining computers during the budget hearings later in the year. I'd entertain a motion for $10,000 from capital to replace the laptops, computers in the EMA department. Mr. Kitson moves. Jack seconds it. Any discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how many people went over there and saw what Kevin has accomplished, and I'll give him the credit for leading through that change to that office. I spent time with him there early on in the budget process a couple of years ago as we were looking at what expenses were needed. And it's utterly amazing what he's accomplished there and the things he's gotten for us through grants and cut costs and made savings. And what we have there is a phenomenal facility. And I really think we need to support this with these changes. And I feel bad for him, but I didn't get a chance to see it because it looked beautiful.
Thank you. Mr. Humphrey?
I seen my question that's at the top of the form. The form still states the original requested amount, but there's a red item on here where it's down to 10,000. So that's what we talked about at finance. I just want to make sure. So.
And thank you, by the way, for your hospitality tonight, Kevin, over at the EOC. State-of-the-art facility that him and the sheriff did together, and it's amazing. So we got a first, we a second, and any more discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go to FY 22 budget adjustment for the approved raises. There's a contingency fund of 200,000 was set aside during the budget process to be utilized for the raises once they were determined. Negotiations with the two Teamsters union contract are complete, and the board approved the raises for non-union staff at the March 2022 meeting. The attached resolution distributes the 200,000 of contingency funds to individual department salary and wage budget items. Mr. Kitson, did you want to?
Chairman, I make a motion, we table this till next month due to some adjustments we need to make and reviews.
Mr. Humphrey seconds that.
Second.
Any discussion? I think you just want to take more time to go through it, make sure it's correct. Is that true? There were some misunderstandings earlier.
Just some misunderstandings to it. And as Chairman Sheeline pointed out, our meeting was very short. And we got into a rush process. So we just need to straighten some things out and verify for everybody on the committee before we present it to the board that it's correct. We'd like to read it.
All raises will go back to December 1 anyhow. So I think one more month's not going to hurt to get some clarification. So everybody in favor to table that signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. We'll go down to the resolution setting salaries for Lee County elected officials. Wendy, do you want to summarize this schedule?
Sure. So in your under the agenda item is a summary of kind of some of the research that I did and was presented to the Finance Committee, including the current salaries. At the time of the discussion, the sheriff was, of course, part of that discussion. We now know that through the state adoption of the state law that he's been taken out of consideration for this. So right now our focus is going to be just on the clerk treasurer. So the current salary for the clerk treasurer is $66,612. There is a state stipend for both of those positions. Each of those positions receive $6,500. I also did a summary of kind of the last 16 years. Over the last 16 years, there was a philosophy that the gap between the typical employee and the department heads needed to be shortened a little bit. When you applied, as we did for many, many years, percentage raises, the percentage raise always gave a greater raise, dollar amount raise to the department head than it did the regular employees. So the gap between the two got quite lengthy, at least according to the individuals that felt like the gap needed to be shortened 16 years ago. So over that last 16 years, the clerk treasurer position went from $55,312 to $66,612, where it's at right now, a total of $11,000. That was an average dollar raise over the 16 years of about $700, or a little over 1% over that time period. Also included in that packet is a little bit of research from the UCCI salary survey. Included in there are 5 counties that I considered the most similar. Keep in mind, the UCCI salary survey is only as good as the counties that respond to it. And I think they tend to get about 60 to 65% of the counties responding. So I don't have access to every county, but these were the 5 most comparable counties based on population and median household income. That demonstrated that the median clerk and treasurer annual salary was, give or take, in the neighborhood of $69,000. So after discussion with Finance Chair Jim Sheeline, the proposal that we brought forward to Finance was to increase the base salary of the clerk and treasurer to $69,000 Along with the state stipend, that would be a total compensation of 75,500. And then in that chart, you will see the proposal for 2023, December 1, 71,000, December 1, 2024, 73,000, December 1, 2025, 75,000. On average, over that 4-year period, that would represent just slightly over a 3% raise for per year for those individuals. And with that said, the Finance Committee did approve the proposed salaries as presented, and there is a resolution actually on your desk. The resolution that was prepared and put in your onboard packet reflected again the sheriff being included in this. So this was a last minute change just as of late yesterday. That's why it's on your desk. So with that said, I'll throw it out to any questions or comments.
Let's get a motion on the floor in a second, and then we'll discuss it. Mr. Nicholson moves. Mr. Sheeline seconds it. Any discussion? Everybody understands what we're doing? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Go to 12, the new courts building network switch quote. We need to purchase 2 network switches that are necessary for the installation of the $82,000 of computer equipment awarded by a grant for the new court systems. These switches would also assist in completing the wireless VLAN upgrades that we started in 2020. I think it's a cost of, when you look in your packet, of $9,626, and it's coming out of capital, the way I understand. Do I have a motion for that? Mr. Bevins, do I have a second? Mr. Hudson, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll go to IT consolidation and hardware software resources.
You want me to take that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I don't have to, but it's lengthy, I know. So as Finance Committee learned, part of our long-range strategic plan for the IT department is to consolidate IT resources. I think you don't have to be an IT expert to be able to visualize that if we have 15 different servers in 15 different locations in multiple different buildings, it makes it a whole lot harder to manage, to maintain, to do data backup, security, et cetera, et cetera. Part of our long-range plan we've been trying to implement, and that started in January when you approved a contract for a third-party vendor to help us with this critical infrastructure needs. This is a piece of that, and what we're looking to do is relocate the servers to a secured location on the second floor of the courts building. And once we get all the servers over there, it'll be a whole lot easier to manage. It'll be less expensive to back up data, less expensive to secure. And right now, the server location is within the circuit clerk's office. This will be a location outside the circuit clerk's office that will allow IT staff to be able to access the area 24/7 without worrying about setting off alarms in the circuit clerk's office. I'll entertain any questions or throw it out back to you, Bob.
Couldn't have said it better myself, so thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the $26,494 for the IT hardware and services to centralize the IT services in the new courts building. Ms. Shippert, Mr. Kitson seconds it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This next one, item 14, board chairman's meeting and conference room remodel. I love how it's named after me on this one.
We did that on purpose, Bob.
I
just
see that.
saying.
It's not a meeting conference room, it's the board chairman's.
I'll take that one also if you want me to,
Yeah,
Bob.
have at it.
So I've been working in collaboration with Tom Wilson on this project. The idea was we were just going to refresh it. For those of you that have been in that room, you know that it's gotten to be quite filled up with a lot of stuff. We need some storage space. We wanted to replace the carpet with some durable vinyl flooring, repaint, and get some storage via kitchen cabinets. Also have that coffee service area rather than being on a small wooden table. It would go on the coffee counter and a kitchen sink. Tom put together these estimates of costs. It was his idea that we utilize in-house staff and use it as a training opportunity for installation of these various things that need to be installed. with the exception of the plumbing, which requires a licensed plumber, and the electrical, minor electrical, just as a matter of adding a couple extra outlets, by the way. So you see the total cost in there of Finance Committee approved a not to exceed $24,000 for that refresh of that room.
Thank you. So the motion to approve, let's get a motion on the table, motion moving second. Motion to approve the board chairman's conference room remodel, board chair, remodel of the amount of not to exceed $24,000. Mr. Copine, Mr. Kitson seconds it. Now a discussion on it. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're down to appointments. We have 7 of them here. I would entertain a motion to approve all 7 appointments or reappointments at one time. Mr. Farser, Ms. Allen seconds it. Any discussion on doing that? If none, all those in favor on doing all 7 at once signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now I need a motion to approve all 7. Mr. Copine, Ms. Shippert seconds it. Any discussion on the 7 we're going to approve? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Approve it. All those opposed? Motion carried.
Abstain.
Got 1 abstention. Mr. Kitson abstained. He should read through there too. I might have to abstain. All right.
Damon Olson.
Executive session, I would entertain a motion to enter an executive session for the purpose of discussing 5 ILCS 120/2 C11 litigation. Mr. Norberg, Mr. Kitson seconds it. All those in favor say, nope. So. Roll call vote, don't we?
I was like, where's she going? You need a break first?
No.
I'm back.
You're important now.
See you later.
Yeah.
You go, girl. You got
I
this.
didn't know what you were doing.
I can do it.
Can you do it? Alan?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Bivens?
Yes.
Considine?
Yes.
Firster?
Yes.
Hudson?
Yes.
Humphrey?
Yes.
Kitson?
Yes.
Lepine?
Yes.
Minimi?
Yes.
Naylor?
Yes.
Nicholson?
Yes.
Norberg?
Yes.
Yes.
Palin? Sheline?
Yes.
Shippert?
Yes.
Scrogstad?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Zeman?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes. Thank you. Let's take a minute. We'll close the doors and make sure we're off of